The police watchdog is investigating a complaint about the way a police helicopter was used to respond to the Grenfell fire. It was made by a man who lost 6 family members in the blaze. Our Home Affairs correspondent Nick Beake joins me with more details. Nick, nearly 6 months on, how has this come about?
Well, as many people will remember the constant noise of the police helicopter hovering above Grenfell Tower in the hours after the fire took hold. Of course, it provided a different perspective for the emergency services looking down at the horrendous scene unfolding. We can have a look now at a still photograph of the helicopter that morning in June, when of course 81 people lost their lives. But now we hear that the police watchdog is investigating the helicopter that morning. And that's because of the concerns of one survivor, a man called Nabil Shakir. He's on the left there. He lost 6 members of his family in the fire. They were all on the 22nd floor, and he has now heard harrowing 999 calls that they made to the authorities begging for help. And he believes that the helicopter's presence gave them the impression that they might be winched to safety. Now, this is what he told me a little earlier this afternoon.
They thought it was an emergency helicopter and they thought they were going to be rescued, like many other families in the building, especially on the upper floors. They were given the false hope and the false impression that they were going to be rescued, and they never did.
They made a request in the 999 calls?
Several times, more than several times, yes. They did request help for the helicopter specifically.
And what has the police watchdog, the IPCC, said?
Well, the Deputy Chair has said today that although there's no indication that any police officer had committed misconduct or a criminal offence, she thought it was appropriate that this this complaint is now investigated. How will this work? Well, it's quite interesting, this, because there is already a police investigation, a criminal investigation, and the role of the helicopter will now be incorporated into this. So the Met will lead this, but the police watchdog will be controlling this from afar and directing what happens here. We also know that it will look into another concern of Mr. Shakir, that the helicopters and specifically their rotors created air, so-called downdraft, which may have fanned the flames and made the situation worse. Talking to him this afternoon and his legal team, it's clear they don't want this to distract from other issues they're concerned about, the cladding and the refurbishment of Grenfell Tower, but they want the police to look at this so crucially it can be fed into the public inquiry, which is looking at the wider picture. Riz.
OK, Nick, thanks very much for that update. Nick Beake there.